Now that you have extended the ERROS business model for the Bike Shop demo and created and authorized the Bike Shop application, you can test it by adding bicycle models to the database and then renting them to customers in the contacts table. You can then add additional features to the application without the need to shut it down. If you have seen the earlier videos, you'll know that before testing, there are just 3 steps in ERROS application creation: extending the ERROS business model, creating the ERROS application, and then authorizing it. Now you must test it. The application was built in just a few minutes because many of the traditional steps required in application creation are now redundant. ERROS dramatically simplifies the whole process of application creation. ERROS is totally object-oriented. All definitions can be reused. ERROS is quite different from object-oriented databases or object-oriented programming. I have not mentioned creating a detailed user requirement specification nor physical file design for the simple reason that these steps are no longer necessary. The ERROS Connectionist Database is not a relational database. You don't have to worry about normalization or SQL or creating database indices for optimum performance. These problems are automatically taken care of by ERROS. You don't need to create any new files, as all user data will be stored in the ERROS Connectionist Database. You don't need to worry about performance, as all ERROS applications are totally scalable. You didn't need to create or change any programs for this application. ERROS applications are created incrementally. They can be enhanced as user requirements evolve, often whilst the application is live, as I will demonstrate. Because ERROS allows you to grow as you go, you can give your users what they want, when they want it. The whole process of extending the business model, creating the application, and authorizing it was achieved with only 30 database changes. That means that I clicked on the Add and Connect buttons just 30 times to update the data and application definitions which are stored in the ERROS Connectionist Database, as will be the user data. Without any program changes, I was able to create a simple but powerful, totally scalable, robust, and secure application with a high availability option. ERROS applications are not compiled, as ERROS interprets at very high speed the data and application definitions stored in the Connectionist database. With ERROS, the concept of compiled applications has gone. The ERROS Connectionist database sits on top of and extends the facilities of DB2 for I, but does not modify that in any way. I will now show you how to test the application. Having signed on to ERROS, double-click on the new application, ERROS Bike Rental. ERROS will display the initial menu that you have just created for the application with contacts and bikes. I will display the name of the application at the top of the screen. One of the problems that I have not considered so far is the user interface for the new application. When you create an ERROS application, you don't have to worry about this, as you can use the ERROS Standard Operator Interface, SOI. This generates HTML and JavaScript on the fly as you make requests, so what users see is the current version of the data. When you created the business model, created the application, and authorized the application, you were using SOI, so you are already familiar with it. SOI works with Macs and PCs with a standard browser, with tablets, with smartphones, and even with 5250 if you are still wedded to them. The Bike Shop is a very simple application, but SOI can handle applications with much more complex screens, perhaps with multiple images, columns of figures for transaction processing, etc. SOI allows you to display your company logo and banner at the top of each screen, as well as images of the main body of the screen. SOI is very efficient and saves time and money. I showed you in an earlier video how to change the font size and the screen colors. And because ERROS is a totally integrated environment, you can make these changes in this or any other ERROS application. I will increase the font size for this demonstration. ERROS has automatically changed all the HTML on the fly. Here I will change the colors. There are two sets of screen colors defined in the database for demo.com Limited. When you sign on, ERROS automatically selects the first. Now I will select the second set. ERROS immediately changes all the HTML. Now I change them back again by reselecting the first set. In ERROS, all data is stored in its context. To take advantage of this, you need a user interface, such as SOI, that reflects this. If you look at this ERROS screen, you will see that it tells you above the main input box that you are in the application ERROS Bike Rental, and within that in the initial menu that you created earlier. Below the main input box are the interests in the initial menu. These are the choices that you have. SOI is not simply about presentation. As well as a consistent look and feel, SOI provides a standard method of operation for all applications, so that an operator does not need to be retrained for each application. You don't need to construct a query to find data. One of the unique features of SOI, in conjunction with the ERROS Connectionist Database, is the ability to navigate the bidirectional connections in either direction at the same speed. ERROS operators can browse to discover information that they might not have found with a predefined query. Response times are effectively instant. SOI can generate complex web pages on the fly. The definitions of these are stored in the Connectionist Database. SOI can also generate complex PCL5 printed reports on the fly. The definitions of these are also stored in the Connectionist Database. Before you can rent out any bicycles, you have to have some in stock, so double-click on Bikes. ERROS takes you to the bicycle entity type. SOI shows you above the main input box that you now have access to bicycles, and that the bicycle records are identified by a name and/or number. If you press Enter, it will also tell you that there are no bikes in the database at present. Type Gazelle Classic and press Enter. Click on Add. If you have already allocated numbers to bicycle models, type the number in the box to the right of number. If you have not allocated numbers, leave the field with 0 in it. Click on Confirm. ERROS displays the record which has now been added to the table. Do the same for Doors Touring Bike. And for Batavus Diva. And for Doors Tandem. To see all the bikes in the table in alphabetic sequence, type star or asterisk and press Enter. You can see that ERROS has automatically allocated numbers to the bikes. If you want them in numeric sequence, type #* and Enter. ERROS displays them in the sequence in which they were entered. If you type D*, ERROS will display the two Doors bikes. If you type D** space !AND space #3, ERROS will display the two Doors bikes followed by the Batavus bike. Although you didn't knowingly specify this when you built the business model, the records in this table have been given dual indices by ERROS, and you can access them by name and/or by number. As ERROS does not have to search the table, response times will be much the same however many records there are in the table. Now that you have bikes in stock, you can rent them out. You now need to access the customers in the contacts table. There are several ways of doing this. As the terms in the fast path are all indexed, you can type full stop followed by a full or generic term, e.g. full stop CON*, and press Enter. It also takes you directly to the contacts table user person and business name. ERROS shows that you now have access to the contacts table, and that contact records, like the bicycle records, are also identified by name or number. However, in this case, the records are indexed in the sequence of last name, first names, even though they are displayed first name, last name. To find a record, you just enter its identifier. As they are dual indexed, you will get instant response times, whether you use name or number, and however many records there are. ERROS will display the records retrieved in the lower part of the screen. As I said before, where you are is shown above the main input box, and the options that you have, i.e. where you can go, are shown below. We haven't entered any contact names in this application, but the data in all ERROS applications is automatically integrated. There are already records in this table that were entered in another application, Corporate Organizer, in which many more attributes are defined for contacts than in this application. Type Dixon and press Enter. ERROS retrieves the record for Rob Dixon. To find information about Rob Dixon, press Enter, as there was only one record. If there were more than one, you would have to double-click on the record you wanted. ERROS displays the second-level menu for user, person, and business name. All menu records are also dual indexed. With only 2 entries, this doesn't matter, but there could be hundreds or even thousands of records in a menu. The menu entries are displayed in the sequence in which they were added to the menu, although this can be changed. You could type BI asterisk and press Enter, or double-click on bikes currently rented. Click on Connect, so that you can connect Rob Dixon to any bikes that he may wish to rent. ERROS immediately takes you to the bicycle table, as you defined in the business modeler that bikes currently rented was a connection with bicycles. As Rob Dixon wants to rent a Dawes touring bike, type DA asterisk and press Enter. ERROS retrieves the records for the 2 Dawes bicycles. Double-click on Dawes touring bike. ERROS is about to create a connection between Rob Dixon and the Dawes touring bike. You can type in a comment if you wish, and then press Enter. ERROS shows that I currently have rented a Dawes touring bike. I also wish to rent a Batavus bike. Click on Connect. Type BATA asterisk and press Enter. ERROS retrieves the record for the Batavus bike. Press Enter. ERROS is about to rent it to Rob Dixon. Type a comment if you wish and press Enter. ERROS shows that it has added the record. Type asterisk and press Enter. ERROS displays the records in alphabetic sequence, as when you created this attribute, ERROS automatically indexed it by name. Note that ERROS, by default, allows the multiple iterations in this attribute. I now wish to rent another Batavus bike. Press Connect. Type BATA asterisk and press Enter. ERROS retrieves the record for Batavus again. Press Enter. ERROS tells you that you have already rented one of these. It allows the operator to accept the duplication by clicking on the button Add Duplicate, which has suddenly appeared. Click on that button. Then press Enter to create the connection. The default characteristic for this attribute is to allow duplicates but warn the operator. The attribute definition could be changed to allow duplicates without warning the operator, or to prevent duplicates altogether. To return to the contacts table, click on Jump Back at the top of the screen. Type Elgar and press Enter. ERROS retrieves Edward Elgar. Press Enter. Double-click on Bikes Currently Rented. Click on Connect. Type #2 and press Enter. ERROS retrieves the Dawes touring bike. You could have typed Dawes TO asterisk. Press Enter. Type a comment if you wish. Press Enter. Click on Jump Back to return to the contact table. Type Linley and press Enter. ERROS retrieves two records. Double-click on Elizabeth Linley as she wishes to rent a bike. Double-click on Bikes Currently Rented. Click on Connect. Type #3 and press Enter. ERROS retrieves the Batavus Diva. You could have typed ****. Press Enter. Press Enter to create the connection and confirm that Elizabeth Linley wishes to rent a Batavus bike. At this point, you might like to see a list of the people who currently are renting a Batavus Diva. All you need to do is to press Enter. ERROS will immediately display, without the need for a query, the names of the people renting this model in the sequence of last name, first name. This is possible because the business model defined the bicycle attribute currently rented to as the inverse of the contact attribute bikes currently rented. The Connectionist Database simply navigated the connection to the record for Batavus Diva and then selected the only attribute in the second level menu which was currently rented to. If you wish to know whether Rob Dixon has any other bikes rented, double-click on his name and then double-click on Bikes Currently Rented. This is another example of the power of bidirectional connections. Another customer comes in and wants to rent a Batavus Diva. You have no more in stock. It happens that Batavus Diva is currently on the screen, and all you need to do is to double-click on one of the two records. ERROS will immediately display a list of the people renting that model of bicycle. If Batavus was not on your screen, you could click on Initial Menu and find Bikes and then the Batavus model, and then find out who is currently renting this. You want to call Rob Dixon to ask him when he intends to return it. Double-click on Rob Dixon. Double-click on Telephone Number Speech. ERROS displays my telephone numbers. If you click on one of the telephone icons, ERROS will start your VoIP applications such as Skype and call the number. You can hear my telephone ringing in the background. I won't answer it. Let us assume that as I didn't answer, you decide to send me an email. But when you access the record for Rob Dixon, email address is not in the list of attributes. You decide that you would like email addresses in this application. I will make this change to the application now. Rather than spending time explaining what I am doing, I will do it at the speed I would do it at if I were not doing a demonstration. I will leave this page here and press Ctrl and N and start a new browser session. I log on, go on through to my list of applications, and click on ERROS Application Creator. I will again change the font size for this demonstration. I will also change the second set of color options so that you can distinguish between the two sessions. You won't hear my voice for a little while. Now I have made the change. I press Alt and Tab to go back to my other session, and there is the screen as I left it. I didn't shut down the application whilst I made the change. If I click on Refresh, the menu contains a new attribute, email address. If I click on that, there is my email address. Note that there are Add, Edit, and Delete buttons, as by default, for this attribute, for this entity type, for this application, I have adequate authority to add, change, or delete email addresses. My authority might be different in other applications. I didn't time that, but I suspect that the whole operation to include email address in the menu took less than 30 seconds using the ERROS Application Creator. I didn't have to shut down anything whilst I made the change, and it didn't affect the response times of anyone using the system at the time. If I click on my email address, my email package starts so that I can send an email. However, I won't do so for this demonstration. I then get a call while I am out, and the caller doesn't leave a message. I'd like to know whether it was a customer and who it was. All ERROS applications allow the operator to ask a query dynamically. I go to the contacts table and type * space, exclamation mark IF space, /TEL asterisk, /0 space, 1844 space, 239339 and press enter. That means retrieve all records with the telephone number 01844239339. It also retrieves 5 records for Bark, 3 of his children and his wife. If you double-click on Johann Sebastian Bach and then on bikes currently rented, you will find that he has no bikes rented at present. Let's assume that the user has now decided that, whilst he does want email addresses to be visible to operators of the Bike Shop application, he does not want them to be updatable. Only employees authorized to corporate organizer will be able to add, change, or delete email addresses. Switch over to the other ERROS session to go back to the ERROS application creator in order to change the application further. Click on Jump Back to the list of entity types in the Bike Shop application. Select User, Personal and Business Name. Select Second Level Menus. Then select Second Level Menu Default. Click once on Email Address and then click on Edit. To prevent users being able to update email addresses, change the leftmost security field to 8000000000, that is the number 8 and 9 zeros, and press Enter. Now go back to the session in which you are operating the application. Type stop co */ Dixon / e space mail * and press Enter. The edit button that was there earlier has now disappeared, and you can no longer add, change or delete email addresses unless you have authority to use the ERROS application corporate organizer. These changes to security are stored in the ERROS Connectionist Database. No change is necessary to the security of the underlying database file object. In this way, you can go on adding new unplanned features incrementally whilst the system is still running. You cannot do this when using the industry standard relational database. As you will have seen, application development using ERROS is extraordinarily productive. Because of the simplicity of ERROS application development and maintenance, as I said earlier on, you can give your users what they want when they want it. You have been operating the application using the ERROS Standard Operator Interface, SOI. You also use this when you extended the business model and when you created and authorized the application. Not only did you not have to create a user interface for the application, you did not have to design or create any files, nor did you have to create or change any programs. All you had to do was to create one new entity type and 2 attributes using the terminology of your choice and make some connections. It was very simple. Using SOI allows you to test immediately the changes that you have made and show them at once to the user, who can then understand the implications of his requests. Maybe he didn't really want to prevent updating the email addresses in this application. If so, you can change the security again. As you are using SOI, you don't have to change the interface to suit his change of mind. No specialist technical skills were required. As new requirements arose, they could quickly be accommodated whilst the application was still running. As I said earlier, ERROS interprets the data and application definitions stored in the database at very high speed. As a result, with ERROS, the concept of compiled applications has gone. More technically minded might like to know that all the files in the ERROS Connectionist Database are journals, and there is an ERROS audit trail. You can find out who updated any metadata or user data record and when and in which application. Thus all the business model extensions, application definitions, authority updates, and user data changes are automatically fully documented. Any changes can be rolled back. Those who have a full understanding of relational database theory might consider that the ERROS Connectionist Database is equivalent to 6th normal form. You might also like to know that, as most of the functionality of ERROS is defined in the ERROS Connectionist Database, the main ERROS programs, which are used for application creation and then for operating the applications created, are relatively small. This includes the ERROS Standard Operator Interface, SOI, which generates the HTML and JavaScript on the fly. These programs don't need changing when new applications are created. This helps to ensure their stability. As I said earlier, with ERROS, the concept of compiled applications has gone. A security officer can interrogate the ERROS journal and display the transactions in ERROS. This screen shows the first few transactions created when extending the ERROS business model for the bike shop application. They are displayed by the ERROS Standard Operator Interface, SOI. Because the journal data has not been retrieved from the ERROS database, ERROS displays external data to the left of the input box. When you test traditional applications, you have to test new program code, and you may have to create a test plan and do a very thorough test of that code to make sure that your files are being updated correctly. This can be quite time-consuming. When I created this ERROS application, I did not create or change any program code, nor did I create any new files, so my test only needed to establish that I had defined correctly the connections in the business model. This I have done. As I have emphasized, this is a very simple application. It does not illustrate the considerable power and flexibility of ERROS or of SOI. Here is a screen from a stock adjustment application, with rows and columns and figures displayed by SOI. The HTML and JavaScript are generated on the fly when the user makes a request. Business screens like this are easy for SOI to generate. The layouts are not based on the use of predefined templates. If you change the font size, the column widths will change. The workings of SOI do not change from one application to another, however different they may be. So here is something completely different, a screen from Stipple, a very complex application for recording history that was created using ERROS. The page layout is defined in the Connectionist Database, and the HTML and JavaScript generated by SOI. The data is not stored in a text document, but is extracted from a variety of attributes and a variety of entity types in the Stipple database. The blue links are all bidirectional connections, and these and the two images are all clickable. The Google map works within the Stipple page exactly as it would if you accessed it directly from the Google website. SOI can handle variable amounts of data or images. I wonder how you might define a page like this using a relational database and SQL. Thank you for watching. Please get in touch with any questions or if you would like to try ERROS.